At the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials, known as NALEO, she is a seasoned advocate. She has extensive executive branch experience and also on Capitol Hill. Let's please welcome Angela Manso. Thank you. Our next panelist comes from my former alma mater. He is the Vice President of Government Affairs at Comcast, NBCUniversal, Telemundo. He is in charge of identifying and also pursuing opportunities that advance the alliances and the policy objectives in the United States and all of NBCUniversal businesses in Latin America. His name is Luis Rosero. And I will claim one minor point of privilege in this next introduction. I was given a lengthy bio. First of all, the type is too small for my eyes. But there was something more in her eyes that caused me to ask her, how do you want people to know you? But I think I already knew the answer. She is a warrior. Es una peleonera. Ella defiende, like the Adelitas of the revolution in Mexico. This is the woman you're about to meet. The first Latina elected to the state legislature, can you believe that, in this century in the state of Wisconsin? A woman who advocates for immigrant rights, including the right to drive a car legally, and also a proud member, and we embrace it, a member and an advocate for the LGBTQ community. Ladies and gentlemen, JoCasta Zamarripa. And I brought my timer because we want to stay on schedule. If I may, I want to move over here. Listen, they told me to take the forward one, but this way I don't give anybody my back. I want to begin this morning by asking you, when we talk about the census, give me a 1-minute overview from your perspective. We'll begin at the far end with Angela. Tell me what you think is the vital impact to each of us here of knowing more and engaging more in the U.S. Census.
Well, thank you for the introduction and for asking that question. And good morning to everyone. And thank you for inviting me to be here on your stage this morning to talk about this incredible, critical issue. What's at stake? What is it that we need to be thinking about here? We are in an unprecedented time. We have never, ever envisioned that we would be here talking about whether or not this country will be able to carry off a 2020 census without delay, without confusion. Normally, what is a largest peacetime mobilization of this country that's done fairly routinely, there are hiccups, of course. Now we are seriously wondering, can this country pull this off? And will everyone be counted? So through our work, through the work of our partners and colleagues, such as many of you here today at LULAC, we will press on. It's as we say in Puerto Rico, yo no me quito. It's like we're going to press on this issue.
Thank you, Angela. Luis, the same question for you. You have a perspective of the entire hemisphere, so tell us the significance to you of the 2020 census.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, LULAC, for the invitation. We're happy to be here in Wisconsin. So the 2020 census is a top priority for Comcast, NBC, and Telemundo. It is one of the utmost reasons that our company is mobilizing both our internal and external assets to make sure that everyone is counted. So in March, we announced a campaign called Hazte Contar, which is really a civic engagement to make sure that everyone can participate in the census, but really more importantly to receive real-time information on the census. There is a lot of movement, as we all know, from today, the last couple of weeks, throughout the year. And we look at this as a responsibility as a media company to make sure that we're providing the most up-to-date information in real time from a trusted source, from someplace you can go, someplace you can trust, and understand that the information working through all our partners is real, people need to make informed decisions, but you need to make informed decisions with proper and correct information. So that's why we think Hazte Contar is going to be extremely pivotal throughout the census.
Luis, I am so thankful that you are expressing the importance of the integrity of the information and keep it relevant and accurate to our community. JoCasta, you've been on the ground all your life. You began your career in activism with your tia nena, Patricia, que en paz descanse. She ran for office, was never elected, but here you're fulfilling her dream. So as you sit here today with us, the significance of the 2020 census for you.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz, and welcome everybody to Wisconsin. The 2020 census is vitally important for our community, but I'll tell you that I'm worried. And I was just talking to Luis, who's from Telemundo, about our local Telemundo, Wisconsin station. They recently interviewed me when the citizenship question came up on the census. And he asked me, Miguel at Telemundo asked me, how will you advise your constituents to around the census? Will you encourage them to fill it out? And in that moment, this is when the news first broke around the citizenship question potentially being on the census. In that moment, I didn't know how to answer. And I told him very clearly, I don't know yet, because I'm fearful too, much in the same way that many of those in my community are fearful. And I remember what happened in 2010. In my district in Wisconsin, the Republican majority did try to crack our Latino community right down the heart of my district, down Chavez Drive. And we fought in the courts and we won, and they were able to keep my district intact, a supermajority Latino district. But those are the things we have to be vigilant about. I want my gente to fill out the census, but I want us to be safe, and I want us to get all the resources that are due to us.
So let's go to that point with Angela. You've been on the Hill in D.C. many years. You get these promises by agencies that tell us, oh, this information has a firewall so thick, no one can get into it. Can we trust that?
I would say yes, and here's why. As someone who was employed by the Census Bureau, I was sworn for life to protect the information that if I ever saw it there. And I can tell you, where I worked, I didn't get to see any of the information that was provided by respondents. But there are very strong privacy laws in place and confidentiality provisions that ensure the information that goes into the Census Bureau stays there. What goes out is statistical tabulations. So it's not your name, it's not your address, it's not what you look like or anything like that. And agencies don't get the information about you.
But if it was so innocent, why would the president be so insistent on including the citizenship question?
That is an excellent question. And what we've seen, what we've learned, I'm sure everybody's been following this in the media, it's like the purpose, unfortunately, is political. It is about diminishing Latino political power. And there's nothing more to add to that. I mean, the papers that were revealed by the Republican redistricting guru showed that.
So, Luis, as a media company executive, and I know you don't handle the editorial side directly, but you're engaged at the highest levels at NBCUniversal. How do you make sure that the information you're sharing with us is accurate, relevant, and is really being shared in a culturally familiar way?
I think that's a great question. And so I think at Telemundo in particular, we're here to help combat these barriers, this misinformation on a number of levels. One, through Telemundo Noticias, our news programming, our Un Nuevo Dia program, our morning program, through our talent. But really, more importantly, it's making sure that the information that we provide is unbiased for everyone to make their own decision. In less than a year, I think in less than a year, the census will be in full swing, where over $800 billion in federal resources will be distributed across the United States in communities like ours that really need the resources for new hospitals, for new schools, for streets, for public services and public works. The only way that's going to happen is that if everyone is counted. And the amount of, I really dislike using this word, but the amount of fear or misinformation that's out there is an issue. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to mitigate that through Hazte Contar and our news programming to really make sure that we're providing the real-time information in a quick and timely
So I just want to
fashion.
understand, you're committing to us here that you have oversight and that you are, if you will, scrubbing, making sure the information is on the money and accurate.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I will commit right here that the information that we are putting out is accurate and truthful, and that's something that our news organization it works on timelessly to make sure that information is
Not
correct.
that I had any doubt that you would. Your companies are legacy companies in America. JoCasta, there are people in the audience who are listening. Some don't yet know how to fill out a census, but let me come back to you where you see, here in Wisconsin and across America, in El Barrio, in our communities, there is fear. There is distrust. How do we overcome that? No matter how many commercials, no matter how many assurances we have from people who have been in Washington, we are out here in la calle. So what do we believe?
I think I think meetings, juntas, panels just like this, with our people here in the room, listening to experts like Angela from NALEO, Luis from Telemundo, it's informing even myself as a leader in my Latino community here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We have to now take this information back where I feel more secure in the knowledge that I'm sharing with my people. I know we also have folks from the census here. Gina Manley is here from the census. She's taking the lead on the census here in Wisconsin. I know they have a table at the expo. It's our responsibility as LULAC members. We're receiving this information, learning this information. Now we have to go out. When we're done having our fun here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we go back home, we compartir. We share the information with our gente, with our community.
JoCasta, thank you. Angela, I know you want to add something, and will you include the significance of when we reply to the census, what do we get back out of that as you make your comment?
Sure. So I wanted to also underscore what's been said here by the fellow panelists. Said, we have also our campaign, Hágase Contar, and we have a sub-campaign to that, Hazme Contar, focused on children under the age of 4, because that's where we miss a lot of the Latinos in this count. Children under the age of 4 are severely undercounted in the census. So we want to make sure you all are aware of that. Visit our webpage, our resources, they're there in English and in Spanish so that you as leaders can take that back to your communities and make sure that we're sharing relevant, truthful information. Here's what we know will happen and won't happen. Here's what you can do.
So, if we participate, what do we gain by participating?
We get the resources in our community that are due, as was stated earlier. We get the political power that comes to us that we know we have in our communities. We get to know who we are. And that is so important. We are, almost 60%, almost 60 million
Right.
Latinos here in the country. It's like
Well, one day
almost
we'll be
20%.
60%, but not
One
quite.
day we'll be 60%, that's correct. We're growing, and we're growing in ways that we hadn't anticipated. We are a diverse community. We are not a monolith. So we need to understand who we are, how we live, where we live, so that we can build our political power, but also businesses know how to serve us.
So, Luis, because many people who watch programming today are not citizens,
That's right.
how do you then structure the message? How do you message to people who are not citizens, but you still want them to understand lo importante del mensaje?
Well, I think this is one of the reasons why when we launched our campaign in March, we launched it with national organizations like NALEO, like LULAC, like Unidos, because it's really the strength of the national organizations that are reaching out to the communities to provide that information on what is needed. Most of the reasons that we're hearing that Latinos may not participate in the census include, one, lack of awareness on benefits of participating, as Angela was just talking about it, language barrier, fear of government intervention, fear of census workers coming to their home, and fear and hesitation about filling out the actual census. How do you do it? Where do you do it? So that's why I think a lot of the reasons what we're trying to do is make sure that we're working together, almost like a clearinghouse, with all of our partners, our organizations, where you can go to your local community and find the most up-to-date information where you can answer questions. NALEO has local chapters, LULAC has local chapters, Unidos has local chapters. So the resources, while maybe at a national level, like in all politics is local. We
Yes.
have to do it over here. And if I could just say one thing just
Please.
about this. So when the Supreme Court came out with the decision a couple of weeks ago, I mean, Telemundo was very proud to come out with a statement. I believe we were the only media company to come out with a statement in support of the decision. And that really just goes to the importance that our company places on prioritizing this as a major priority. So we're here for the long haul, and we want to work with everyone here to make sure that everyone gets counted.
Thank you, Luis. Well, I'm from California, originally from Texas, both states. Representation of the powerful Latino electorate is important. JoCasta, you were elected as the first Latina in the state legislature in your state here in Wisconsin. Tell us how important it is to make sure that we are represented adequately in terms of numbers and how the census plays into that.
It's absolutely important for us to make sure that we're counted accurately. In Wisconsin, although we're only about 6% of the population, we're the fastest growing constituency group in the great state of Wisconsin. We have a chance with the new census to potentially gain more political influence, like Angela said, more Latino, perhaps supermajority districts like mine. We only have one, which is my district, the 8th Assembly District, but we have many Latino influence, approaching Latino majority districts. This could mean more political influence. This means passing bills like driver's licenses for undocumented Wisconsinites. This is what the census could lead to: resources and more representation in government, more politicals, more of you in office, the first Hispanic in the state Senate perhaps in Wisconsin, which still has yet to be done. We need to have these kinds of victories.
So let me just understand it. Are you saying that the value of taking part of the census is a greater voice in America's state houses, and also more money and funding for programs and money in our pockets because it benefits our families? Is that correct?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get back to you, Angela, because, and I'm trying to, share time here, but please jump in wherever you'd like. You've been in D.C. and you represent Latino representatives who are from throughout the country. Are they talking about any type of collaborative effort? Because let's face it, it's a tough administration right now. And some of the issues Latinos are concerned about aren't necessarily on the radar of this administration. How does working together at this time on the census make us all stronger?
Thank you for that. So yes, NALEO is very much focused on this issue. It is our #1 issue all day, every day. And we just recently had our annual conference in the great state of Florida, where we came together. We had a very powerful, robust discussion about this. We also had a presidential candidate forum, and every single person who attended, every single candidate who came was asked that question very directly. What are you going to do? How are you going to protect and ensure that we will have a full count in the census of all Latinos? So for us, this is just more of what we have always been doing. This is about recruiting our partners, building out our partnership, getting our message out, and making folks aware of what exactly is happening, making sure that there's minimizing the misinformation, getting the right information out into the field, into the community, and giving them the assurance that what they're telling the public is true, that folks can feel safe about answering the census. Certainly, we continue to battle on the citizenship question. And, despite the shenanigans that we're seeing, the machinations, we know that this is a distraction. This is a disservice to our democracy. But we're going to continue to fight because we want an accurate census.
And it is a day in, day out. Luis, please add to that.
Well, one I wanted to add that we were very happy that NALEO held their conference in Miami, because we actually were lucky enough to host them at Telemundo Center. And while NALEO asked all of those questions to the candidates, which was incredible for all the participants, again, back to the responsibility of where we look at Telemundo, is we're ensuring that every single one of those candidates were interviewed and that question was broadcast. Because at the end of the day, the audience, everyone here, needs to know where candidates stand, what they say, and how they think about it. So we look at it, again, as our responsibility to amplify the message, whatever it may be, because everyone has to make that decision at the end of the day. But because of forums like we're hosting today at LULAC, like we did at NALEO, it gives an opportunity to amplify that message and continue to ensure that information is put out in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Luis. As we begin to wrap up, time is brief. There are a lot of young people in the audience. JoCasta, there may be a young lady here, there may be a young man who says, one day I'm going to be like her. Why is the census important to the future of this country, and particularly to Latinos and other minority communities?
Again, I think that it's important for our communities, if we're going to get the resources that are due to us, if we're going to get the representation, so that we're going to see those young people in office, those state representatives, those state senators, those mayors. We need to make sure that we're counted. And I know the time is waning, and I wanted to push out as well. One way to get that experience so that you could potentially be a candidate one day is to perhaps work for the census yourself. I was just talking to Gina Manley, who's running the census operations here in Wisconsin, and they're definitely hiring, well, across the country. I know we have people from many different states, bilingual census workers, and you can do it part-time, and it's flexible. And so it's important that we have bicultural and bilingual workers helping count our comunidad.
So se puede.
Sí.
Se puede.
Sí,
There
se
you
puede.
go. All right. Angela, wrap it up for me, please, and help us to encourage the young people, all of us, but in particular, I see some young folks over here. They're all over the place, and they're the future of this organization. Talk to them.
Sure, absolutely. First of all, I would encourage you to visit our website, hagasecontal.org. Get information there about the census so that you can become the leaders in your community and talk about why it's so important. Secondly, I would say, as was noted, there are job opportunities. If there's something there for you, go ahead, apply, definitely do this. 10 years ago, this was not on your radar. You were probably too young to know, so your mom, your dad, your grandparents were the ones that were filling out the form. Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn to be the person to make sure that you are counted, that your community sees you, that this country sees you and knows that you're present, so that we can make sure we have an accurate census going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Luis, you've got 30 seconds, my brother. Wrap it up with a strong message.
So it's also the first digital census, so I think a lot of the young people here will have a lot more, will feel a lot easier filling it out that way. But I think it's important to visit the NALEO site, visit and sign up for haztecontar.com at Telemundo, which is both for voter registration and census, but really just become involved. Get involved, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors. You're going to make the difference, and we can be up here talking, but it really has to be a two-way partnership, and we're here to help.
Angela, Luis, JoCasta, three giants who are here with us today. Un gran aplauso. Give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you.